normally I wear glasses. So if anybody sees me day-to-day life, I wear glasses. So I'm wearing them today. I know there's a super glare in the video, but I need to wear them today because my eyes just don't want to focus right now. It's another thing, being diabetic. So, which I'll talk about later on. Anyways, so this video is going to be about my pancreas journey, you know, what's happened, what led me to have my my pancreas fully removed and that kind of stuff. So, yep. So, you know, I talked about how I got diagnosed with precancerous cyst, and precancerous cysts are a trademark, you know, classic sign of VHL. So once I got my diagnosis and stuff, my VHL diagnosis, you know, monitoring, I have to have scans every 6 months for my kidneys. I have to have MRIs yearly for my brain to make sure nothing else is growing. And, you know, they were scanning and monitoring my pancreas. Well, in May of 2019, it was actually on my husband's birthday, I got sick, and I thought maybe I just ate too much or something, but I just had this nausea that just wouldn't go away. So I ended up back at the ER, you know, because I was just in a lot of pain. I was just really nauseous and I was starting to vomit a lot. And they're like, oh, you're just dehydrated. And I went to the ER that at that time was like my normal ER. I went to the one that's associated with UCSF. That ER is in Fresno, California. So that's where I went. And they're like, oh, you're probably just dehydrated. So they gave me something for the nausea and dehydration and they sent me home. Well, the next day, that was on the night of his birthday. We went home about 2 a.m. That same day, technically. When I woke up, I couldn't eat. I wasn't keeping anything down at this point. I was vomiting constantly. I mean, pain pills, water, everything. And so that made me more dehydrated. So I went to the hospital. And so back in January of 2019, I had my gallbladder removed because I was having these same symptoms of constantly throwing up, not being able to keep food down. I was having all of these issues. So my doctors are like, okay, well, maybe it's your gallbladder. So they took the gallbladder out. Well, I went for a few months where I was okay, not 100%, but I was okay. One of my biggest issues is I was constantly fighting nausea. I was always nauseous. I had a lack of appetite. When I did have an appetite, I ate too much, but it was something I was always fighting. And then with being nauseous, I was tired a lot. I couldn't really function, you know, normally like I'm used to. And I usually set a high bar for myself, which is not always a good thing, but that's not the point. Anyways, so I ended up, this is May now, I ended up back in the ER. Sorry, there's a fly flying around here. I ended up back in the ER the next day, and then they decided to admit me. And I was admitted for 3 days, and on my second day, they did another scan, and they looked more closely at my pancreatic region. You know, they saw that I had a gallbladder. Well, what they saw is that one of the cysts on my pancreas was so large, it was compressing my bile duct. And what it was actually doing was putting me into liver failure. My bile was backing up into my liver. And that's why I was getting sick, is because I was putting me into liver failure. Had I not gone back to the ER and had I not felt any better, it could have gotten worse and it would have been pretty bad. So they went in, they put in a stent in to help the drainage, to help widen up the narrowness of my bile duct and help with the drainage. Then, so that was in May. Then the following month in June, I had my kidney surgery, my partial nephrectomy on my left side. Like I had said in my last video, I was in the hospital 4 days. The first day was the roughest. After that, it kind of was a breeze. I was up, walking, eating, everything normal. It was pretty simple, easy recovery from that surgery. I was off of work for 2 weeks, and then I went right back to work. And at this time for work, I was Well, I say was because I recently made the decision to leave because I don't see myself in the industry anymore. Was a licensed I was licensed in life insurance. I was working with a company called Primerica. Amazing company. I love them. I don't care what haters want to say. I love them. They're an amazing company. They do great things for people, and they do great things for people like me and that are middle class, middle income people. You know, they're amazing. They give you all these amazing tools. So quick shout out to Primerica. So at that time I was working with them. So like I said, I was off for 2 weeks. And then I went right back to work. I didn't get any better. The stint helped a little. The very first stint helped. I thought I was back to normal again. But every 2.5 months I was going back in for stint replacements. And at that time, my husband and I were going to try to expand our family. We wanted to have another baby. But my doctors put a big old stop sign to that and said, no, because you're getting these stents surgeries every 2.5 months, you can't, because you can't have this surgery while you're pregnant. So you can't have any kids right now. So that was really disappointing. And it's kind of sad because this whole VHL diagnosis has made me very afraid that I'm not going to be able to, give my son a sibling. And I know a lot of people are like, well, what's most important is for your son to have you. And yes, that's very true. That's why I fight every day. And that's why I have done what I'm done and doing what I'm doing to keep my health in check. I do it for my son, not just for myself, but for my son, because yes, it's very important for him to have me. But the other things I think about is the future of, I want him to have a sibling that'll be able to share with him those memories of his parents, not just of me, but of my husband as well. I want him to have a sibling to be there with him, to share in those things. I have siblings. I have 2 brothers and a sister. They're all younger. I'm the oldest. I don't see my brothers as often as I'd like to. One of them lives in Mexico because he's a sibling from my dad, and the other one, he's 13 years younger than me, and I feel bad sometimes, but I don't see him as often as I'd like. I try to, make time for him though when I can. My sister, me and her are incredibly close. She's almost like one of my kids because we're 10 years apart. She's lived with me. I raised her, throughout her teen years and her, pretty much since she was 9. Since she was 9, she moved in with me, and I've had custody of her, and she's very close. She and I are very close. So I want my son to have that with his sibling. I want him to have a sibling. My husband and I have considered adoption, and when we feel like we are ready, we will probably go that route. Whether we can have more kids naturally or not, we will probably go that route. It's something that's always weighed heavily on my heart, is to foster and to adopt. So anyways, back to what was going on. So because I was having these stent surgeries every 2.5 months, I wasn't getting better. I was seeing a surgeon in Fresno, and let's see, that was May. Then I had one 2.5 months later. By my 3rd stent surgery, I just wasn't feeling good. It took me longer to recover from the surgery, which was really weird for me because I usually just bounce back from surgery. I always have. I mean, starting from my very first surgery of a C-section with my son, I bounced back very quickly, and I was still feeling really drained and sick and just awful after these stent surgeries. So I ended up changing surgeons. Right after my 3rd one, I changed surgeons, and I got a referral up to a surgeon in San Francisco and at UCSF. And this surgeon, I met with him. He's like, when's your next surgery? And I was like, this isn't supposed to be. He's like, okay, we'll do it like the week before or whatever. I went in, I had the surgery in this year was my first time having a 2020. I think it was like February, January, can't remember. But I had that surgery with him, and right off the bat, and he admitted me for a day. Right off the bat, he put in 3 stents and a 4th stent into my pancreas to see if there's anything that can drain from the pancreas. And that's why they admitted me, to keep me under monitoring to see, because sometimes I can go into like a full pancreatic episode, like pancreatitis episode, because of that stent, foreign body's like, no. So that didn't happen. I was just in some pain. So I was admitted for the day. I was fine. Next day they discharged me. I felt really great. It felt really, really great after that. After having those 3 stints, it felt like they were really working. So that was February. I had another one done in May. I had another stint in May, and then by May we decided to refer me out to a surgeon that was actually going to focus on my pancreas and see, what we can do, what are my options for my pancreas. So Dr. Nakakura, who's amazing, love him, did an amazing job. So that was in May. I met with him in June, and then we ran into some issues with my insurance. Love state-funded insurance, just love them. They're great. I know I'm sarcastic about it, but they are great. They are great for what they're there for. And I've actually never had an issue with them until I started getting more sick. And then I started getting all these, stop signs and red tape and just no answers. So, ran into some issues with them in regards to getting some testing done before they made a final decision on my surgery. They also presented me to something like a tumor board, which is where a bunch of surgeons meet and discuss a case, especially very unique cases like mine. Essentially what they came up with is that full pancreatectomy was the best option, because the other 2 options were, 1, doing a partial removal of my pancreas just there, but that just means more cysts can grow on whatever's left and it can cause issues, or doing a reroute, which again, the pancreas would still be there and could still move around and could still cause the narrowing issues. So by having a full removal, it gets rid of that narrowing issue. That narrowed bile duct would actually have gotten removed, and then the part that's left got rerouted. So that's what they ended up doing, is they took my pancreas November of 2020. So they took the pancreas, which made me a full-on type 1 diabetic. I was diagnosed with diabetes at 20, which was really young, and they diagnosed me as type 2. At that time, I was much heavier than I am now. I was very heavy. I gained a lot of weight very quickly. My diabetes runs on my mom's side of the family, so they just thought that's what it was. It turns out, because of the VHL diagnosis, most likely I was diagnosed so early with diabetes because of the pancreatic cysts, because mine were so extensive. So I've been diabetic for 8 years. I've been a semi-controlled diabetic, and diabetes is not something that you can instantly just be perfect and you have great numbers and a great A1C. No, that's not how it works. Diabetes is work every single day. And so the year before getting pregnant, I got my stuff together and I buckled down and I lost weight and I ate better and I changed my eating habits and I got onto insulin and I got onto all these medications, and I helped bring my A1C to a perfect, comfortable spot where my doctors were okay with me getting pregnant. And then while I was pregnant, I was a perfect diabetic because my A1C was perfect. I was like even in normal ranges for people that aren't diabetic. Then the minute after having my son, I went uncontrolled again. So I was uncontrolled, and I'm still considered uncontrolled because I'm not in the perfect ranges. I have my good days and I have my bad days. All diabetics do, especially now that I'm type 1. after having this pancreatic surgery, I feel like I'm in a honeymoon phase, because for the most part, most days I'm in those really pretty, you know, controlled number ranges, but I'm like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, which is the story of my life. But now I'm a type 1 diabetic. I'll be diabetic for the rest of my life. I have no pancreas. So for those of you that don't understand why I'm type 1 diabetic, what your pancreas does, it makes insulin and enzymes. Your insulin helps regulate your sugars in your body. And so that's, you know, so for normal people, your pancreas works and functions and, you know, gives out insulin. For people like me, when I had a pancreas, my pancreas did not give out a lot of insulin. It gave out only very little, so I had to be on insulin to help regulate my sugar numbers. Now that I have no pancreas, I have zero insulin in my body. I also have zero enzymes. So I'm also on something called Creon, which is pancreatic enzymes. I take these little pills every day. Every time I eat, it helps break down food. That's what these enzymes do, and your pancreas releases these enzymes to help you break down food. But yeah, so now I'm type 1 diabetic. Right now my big fight is trying to get my Dexcom G6 CGM, continuous glucose monitor. I'm changing insurances as of the first of the year, so that insurance should actually make it easier for me to get it. And then probably a year from now, I'll be on an insulin pump. Don't know which kind yet. It's up to my doctor, what he recommends. But yeah, I'll probably be on an insulin pump by this time next year. With a pancreatic surgery, there is hope that I could possibly have another baby. But again, we'll see. 2 weeks ago, I had a doctor's appointment, and as of May, I was cancer-free on my kidneys, and as of 2 weeks ago, I no longer am. That sucks. Something I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life. It's just the story with VHL. My doctor said it the best. Sometimes these tumors, these cancer tumors, they will have growth spurts, and they grow for like 3 years, and then they just stop and stay silent for like 5. And don't grow, and we just continuously monitor them, and then they grow again, you know. So my right side is okay. It's my left side where the tumors are back, and they grew very quickly in 6 months, because in 6 months they were under a centimeter, so they don't even consider them cancer then. And now they're at almost 3 centimeters. So now we've got to decide another ablation or another nephrectomy, which is another surgery, which is more stress on my body. Surgery is very stressful, very stressful. I have pictures and stuff of my pancreas and my journey of healing. So if anybody wants to see those, they will be on my Instagram. I will put the Instagram tag down here. So yeah, if anybody wants to see those, they'll be on my Instagram. I'm currently healing right now. My muscles hurt so bad because, you know, they cut into me. I have an incision from my chest. Let's see, I'm gonna turn this around. Sorry, video stopped recording. Okay, so I have an incision from my chest okay, I'm just gonna show you. From here all the way down to my belly button. It's about this long, because it's right under my belly button. When I first came out, I came out with staples, which was really crazy to see the staples. And I was in the hospital for a week after my pancreas surgery. I had a lot of issues in the hospital. Just with my guts, they were just not wanting to function right, and then the pain was unbearable. I consider myself a very strong person. I usually am never on like hard medications like Oxy or Norco or anything like that. I'm rarely on those hard medications, but this surgery I've had to use them. I'm still taking my Oxy, not every day, just some days when I'm in a lot of pain because ibuprofen and Tylenol just aren't cutting it. I only take it at night because it makes me drowsy and makes me feel loopy. So if I take it at night, I go to sleep. I don't feel any of that, but I do if I move at night. I know that it's working because I don't feel the pain in my abdomen. I came home with 2 open incisions. Oh my God, so gross. Again, these pictures will be on my Instagram. I'm gonna make a post about them. So, yikes. So, the day I was supposed to go, the day I went home, and I didn't come home all the way because it's a 4-hour drive from where I live to San Francisco. So I didn't come home right away. My husband and I stayed in San Francisco overnight. But that day when they were getting ready to admit me, discharge me, sorry. They opened up my staples. They took out my staples. And then I sat up. And when I sat up, I had fluid come out of my belly button. And gross, but it totally looked like I had peed myself or something because it was like under me when I sat up. It was like a puddle like this big. It was a pretty big puddle. And I was like, whoa. And then I would stand up and it would trail. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And they're like, oh no, you're probably fine. So I went and showered because I was in a hospital, and I showered every day in the hospital, but I felt gross. I think it's just being in the hospital. You just feel gross. So I went and showered, and I noticed she had put steri strips all down my incision line. And I noticed in the shower that one of my steri strips was puckering, and it looked like I had a hole on the top. And I was like looking down, and I was like, oh, that's weird. So we called the nurse practitioner. She came in, she looked, she's like, huh. She's like, yeah, you do have a hole. So we took those steri strips off, and it was opened. And then I told her about the bottom one, and she looked at it, and yeah, the bottom one was open. There was a hole in there too. So then she has to call my actual doctors because she's a nurse practitioner, so she can't make all the all the calls. So she calls my doctors, and my doctors come in, and these are residents. They're all residents. My main doctor, my main surgeon, I saw him one other time while I was in the hospital. It's mainly the residents that check in. So the resident comes in, and he sticks his finger in my belly button area. Not inside my belly button, in the large, huge hole that I had in my belly button. Oh my gosh, it was the weirdest feeling and the grossest feeling I ever felt, because I felt like his whole fist was in there. I mean, it was only like his finger and then like his knuckle right here, like where he was feeling around. And what he was doing was making sure, so I guess you have 2 layers of skin. You have like an internal layer of skin, and if that internal layer of skin does not heal, unlike your top layers of skin. So he was making sure that internal layer wasn't compromised because I was having this leakage and stuff like that. They call them serosomas. I really hope that's the word. I'm gonna have to look it up, but I think they're called serosomas, which is pretty much a word for a big pocket of fluid buildup, pus. It's like a big blister inside. So I had 2 of them, and he made this one that was like really, really tiny. It was like small. He made it bigger. And then my husband had to learn to be my nurse. He's amazing. I love him. Big shout out to my nurse, because he's been such a trooper, because we came back from San Francisco. He went right back to work, and he has been working. He's been on daddy duty. He's been a lot of help with our son, because yes, I know that's his job because his dad, but I do a lot of the work because I'm mama, and he's had to do a lot more work now than what he normally does. And he's been my nurse on top of that. So huge shout out to my husband. He's been amazing. But yeah, so we have to pack the bottom one. Now the top one is completely healed. So like I said, I'll post pictures. Top one is completely healed. It's all closed up, new skin, looks great. The bottom one is still open, but he had to pack the bottom one with gauze. And now we're using this long sterile iodine strip thing that he's packing in there twice a day. And I leak still. I still have a lot of leaking. I wear double the shirts because If I don't wear a tank top, it'll get on my regular shirts. It gets on my yoga pants because that's all I wear right now, is because right where it's at, it's right where my jeans hit, so it's really uncomfortable. But yeah, I came home. That has been very hard for the ego, because seeing these, I had scars already on my body from my, from my 2 surgeries that I had, my gallbladder surgery and my nephrectomy. And my husband always joked it looked like I survived a gang stabbing because they were just all right here. But seeing this huge incision and seeing my body open like that, it, 1, gross, 2, it just messes with your head. And it has totally messed with my confidence on my body. I already had kind of body issues already, but I was learning to love my body, and now I have to relearn to love my body and love it for everything it is, with scars and all. The biggest scar I had prior to any of these surgeries was my C-section scar, and you can't even see that. It's hidden. So then I have all these surgeries, and now I have all these scars, and I'm like, one part of me is like, I'm a badass because I have survived these surgeries, and these are not just okay little surgeries. No, these are major surgeries. But the other part of me is like, oh my God, I have scars all over my body. And it makes me sad. So that's the pancreas story. No more pancreas. Pancreas go bye-bye. I'm type 1 diabetic now. Gosh. We'll see how it goes getting all my equipment that I need, my CGMs. I'm used to being on insulin, so I'm used to poking myself, and I'm used to taking the Creon. I've been taking it for 2 years now because they put me on Creon right away. But yeah, so this is my journey so far. You guys will continue on. I will eventually start recording my doctor's appointments, whether they be virtual because of COVID right now, or when I actually go in person. And I'll record the day of when I end up having either my ablation or my kidney surgery, and I'll keep you guys all updated. So thanks for watching, guys. Love you.